Hey guys, back again with another review on Tales from the Borderlands from Telltale Games. I think the first episode came out in 2014, but as like a complete package, it's come out in 2015. And this is one of those games that I had heard about. I had heard good things about this game actually. Like this game reviewed quite well, but it's one of those things where I really wasn't all that interested in it because of the Borderlands name. Now, I played the first Borderlands and I enjoyed that game, but it was one of those games that's like fun with other people, but as soon as you play it by yourself, it's just really boring. And the universe I didn't think was all that interesting from what I played of Borderlands 1. Now, I didn't play the sequel, and actually the sequel. The sequel is the game that, if you've played the sequel, you'll probably get the most out of Tales from the Borderlands because it takes place, I think, directly, or not directly, but it takes place after Borderlands 2. But you don't need to have played any of the Borderlands games to get into Tales of the Borderlands and enjoy it because I'll say right now, like, this game really surprised me. It actually kind of blew me away a little bit because it's probably Telltale's best game. At least it's their most well written, I think. And Telltale Games, I really liked the ending to The Walking Dead Season 1, but I feel like this has one of the most satisfying conclusions to an episodic game that I've ever seen. The final episode of this was absolutely incredible, and especially how it takes all your choices that you've made into account. And of course, I can't really spoil things, and this will be a spoiler-free review, but it really surprised me. There's some twists and turns with the fifth episode in particular that really surprised me. But yeah, it was a big surprise for me, and I got to say, if you're like me and was kind of put off by like the fact that it's a Borderlands game and has the same universe, don't be. I know a lot of people don't like Borderlands 1 and 2, and I can understand why. I get it. I understand why people aren't so crazy about those games. But yeah, I'd say definitely give this a shot, especially if you have enjoyed Telltale's games or narrative games in general. This isn't perfect. There are some issues I have with it that I'll bring up, but if you did enjoy the Borderlands games, you've probably already played this. But it's highly recommended. If you have hated all of Telltale's games, then maybe I would say don't play this. But yeah, I was definitely very much surprised by it, and I think it's actually probably one of the best games of the year. But where should we start? I guess we'll start with the story. It's a little complex, but I guess I'm going to give like kind of a brief overview of what the story's like in this game, because it's a narrative game, so that's the main reason you're playing this game is for the story and the characters. But there's two protagonists in this game actually. You're not controlling only one character. You've got Reese, and he's kind of like he's a worker for the Hyperion Corporation, which is kind of like this evil corporation in the Borderlands world. And they have like this spaceship called, I think, Helios is what it's called. And you play the main character, or at least one of the main characters, is Reese, and he's a worker on this ship. And the second character is Fiona, and she's like kind of like a con artist type character, and she's on Pandora, which is like one of the main planets in the Borderlands universe, and I think the main planet of Borderlands 1 and 2. A very dangerous planet, a lot of like bandits and things like that on this planet. It's a harsh planet, and Fiona's kind of adapted to this landscape and these harsh conditions. But those are your two main characters, and basically, through some events that I don't really want to spoil, they're both kind of captured by this one character on Pandora, and they kind of explain to this character the whole story up until the point they were captured, and they kind of meet up at one point in episode 1, Fiona and Reese. There's some side characters as well. Another main character is Sasha, Fiona's sister. You've got Reese's companion. What's his name? Vaughn. So you've got some other characters I don't really want to spoil, but basically it's kind of hard to describe like the plot for this game because it's fairly complex, but it basically revolves around a deal gone bad, like a deal like Hyperion, that's kind of spoilers to say, but it's basically about a deal gone bad, and things kind of escalate from there and get crazy. You've got kind of like a enemy group on Pandora led by this this woman named Valerie. Then you've also got a villain as part of the Hyperion Corporation, and a character named Handsome Jack appears in this. Although in Borderlands 2, this character died, so it's like this version of Handsome Jack is like an AI version, and that was a very interesting character, and that's actually the one character that made me wish I had played Borderlands 2. Because you get to know him more as a character. I'm guessing if you play Borderlands 2, but even still, if you haven't played the Borderlands games, you're gonna quickly get to know this world and the characters. And the story might seem simple at first, but it gets pretty interesting towards the end of the game. The characters, though, is where this game shines. Like, the characters are fantastic. Reese is kind of like he's almost like a comic relief character in a way. And I guess I should mention this game is a comedy. Basically, it's an action comedy is how I would is the genre I would consider it, which is rare for video games. And the game's funny. It's got very humorous writing. Now, some of it falls a little flat. But episode 4 in particular is just hilarious from start to finish. This game made me laugh out loud on quite a few occasions. Very witty dialogue as well. Like the banter between characters is just really fantastic. Some great character development between the characters. Like I think the characters are probably better than the main plot, but the main plot surprised me, especially towards the end when it gets really crazy and epic. Some really great humorous characters. Like there's a character called Loaderbot, which is really funny. Like a character named Gortys, which is my favorite character in the game. That I don't really want to say anything more about Gortys other than that character was just fantastic. So yeah, the writing is just really strong throughout. Some episodes are stronger than others, like with most episodic games. I'd say episode 2 is probably the weakest overall, with episode 4 and 5 being the strongest. I'd say, though, it has a bit of a slow start. I wasn't sold immediately, but like halfway through the first episode is when I started to kind of warm to the characters a little bit. And by like episode 2, I was really invested with what was going on in the characters. A lot of great humorous moments, and it plays with your expectations as far as narrative-based games go, and in terms of your choices. Because, I guess getting into the gameplay, this plays like Telltale's other games, where it's just basically massive cutscenes, some quick time events here and there, nothing too crazy. Like there's not like really annoying quick time events, although there were a few times where I failed and I had to go back like 30 minutes, which was a little irritating, but nothing too crazy. But if you hate quick time events, they're not going to bother you too much here. There's not too many of them. And they're used for like really action-packed moments of the game. Unlike with a lot of Telltale's games, I feel the more games they've released, the less puzzle heavy they've been. Walking Dead, the season 1 had a few different puzzles that you'd solve, and you could explore these environments and walk around. Walking Dead 2 had far less, and this is there's hardly any puzzles in this game. What puzzles there are here are very minor puzzles. Like they're not going to tax your brain whatsoever. Reese has kind of like he's genetically enhanced, sort of, so he's got like a visor mode, like where you can scan parts of the environment, and there are little sections where you'll walk around the environment, but they don't last very long, and there's really not much puzzle solving to speak of. Most of this game is choosing dialogue choices, and then just watching cutscenes and the events kind of unfold. Which I'm okay with the game not having a bunch of puzzles. In fact, Walking Dead 1, Season 1, I think there were a little too many puzzle-solving elements, and they weren't so complex, but they were large enough to be kind of annoying at times. But this game, it's just pure narrative, basically. But one of my disappointments with a lot of Telltale's games is the fact that your choices don't really matter all that much in the end. And to an extent, your choices don't matter a whole lot in Tales from the Borderlands, but they matter a whole lot more than they have in their previous games, and they matter in some ways that really caught me off guard. And of course, I can't really spoil exactly why that is, but I think you'll be surprised with the final episode of this. Other things in terms of gameplay, you can get money and you can like buy different costumes and things at different points, but that's a very minor component of the game. The interface kind of changes depending on which character you're playing as, which is kind of interesting. but I mean that's all there is to say really. The gameplay, if you've played a Telltale game, you know what to expect here. There's really not much in the way of gameplay, but you know what? For what this game is, I don't mind that so much. What else? Visuals. It's the engine they've been using for a long time. Cell shaded, and you know I think the game looks nice. Now I played this on PC. You can get it on. I'll have to check. I'll put the systems on the title description or whatever. But I'm pretty sure you can get this on like what PS4, Xbox One, PC, probably even 360 and PS3. Now. The game ran like a dream on PC. Now, I know Telltale's games, a lot of people have complained about technical issues with them, and Walking Dead Season 1 and 2, from what I remember, I played Walking Dead Season 1 on 360 and Season 2 on the PC, and yeah, the frame rate was really rough, and it was like there was awkward hitching a lot of the times, and it kind of made things flow awkwardly. And it's distracting for such a cutscene heavy game. But with this one, I didn't encounter any frame rate issues whatsoever. The game ran smooth as butter. Now that may vary. I really don't know whether the next gen versions. I would have to assume the PS4 versions and the PS4 and Xbox One versions run fine. Now, I've heard the nightmare stories about the Vita versions of Telltale's games, so if you are interested in this game, I would recommend trying to get this on PS4, PC, or Xbox One, because I have a feeling that maybe the last gen versions are rough as far as technical issues go, but the version I played ran great, which is nice to see. That their engine finally not running like shit. But the cell shaded visuals help it look really nice, I think. And it's one of those games. I think Telltale's games. Technical issues aside, they're going to hold up well because of the cell shading techniques they use. Audio-wise, voice acting is absolutely fantastic. The voice acting is stellar in this game. It's amazing. Not a single performance I could say is weak. They really sell their lines in the dialogue. And like I said before, you really get warm up to these characters. I pretty much love every character in this game. There's not a weak character. Even the villain characters have some, they're flawed characters, but they're still likable. Handsome Jack in particular, he's a villain character, but he's still likable. Really fantastic. But yeah, voice acting's amazing. Music, you've got some original songs that play at the beginning of each episode. Some of them I thought didn't quite fit the I don't want to say the theme of the game, but maybe the style. I don't know. Some of the original songs were a bit weird. They were okay. I don't know. And the other music in the game is kind of generic electronic music that kind of plays. I gotta say, the music didn't leave a lasting impact on me. It was kind of meh. I don't know. The original and ambient music wasn't that good, to be honest. But that's not too much of a deal breaker. Other than that, I mean, controls. It can the movement control fine. They're not the greatest, but again, you're not doing much moving around in this. But yeah, I mean, that about covers it. There's not much to say about this game because it's such a narrative heavy game. But all I can say is that the writing is very charming and funny. It's got standout characters, some great emotional moments too, some great action-packed cutscenes. It really surprised me. I gotta say, as someone that didn't find the Borderlands universe all that interesting. And it's what kept me from playing the game, but I kept hearing such great things about this game on different podcasts and things like that, and the reviews were really high, so I felt like I had to check it out and get it done before the end of the year, and I'm glad I did. Who knows, it might even make an appearance on my top 10, but yeah, highly recommended. I think it's definitely going under the radar this year. And it's perhaps Telltale's best game. And even though I do have a soft spot for Telltale's games, I think I like them more than most people do. Game of Thrones is still the only one I haven't played at this point. Although I guess there's that Minecraft story mode thing that I don't really care about. But Game of Thrones, I've heard mixed things on. I've heard that's not that good, which is a bit unfortunate because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. But I might try that at some point. Probably not this year. Probably next year when it goes on sale or something like that. And then I think they announced a new Batman game at that Game Awards, which I might do a video on that, actually talking about the Game Awards and the PlayStation Experience Conference. But yeah, Tales from the Borderlands really surprised me. Excellent game, definitely worth checking out, unless you just hate Telltale's games. But yeah, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.